Hello, everyone. It's Sarah Altair with Actation Now, and this is the Midweek Zap. Today, we're going to do some local love and look at a collaborative project for Eagle, Colorado. And I have Tim Sweeney and Sanjiv Manifest, who must have one of the best last names ever. So, Tim, you want to start out and tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I would describe myself as a online marketer, digital media marketer, to boil it down. Um, I've been doing it since the late 90s. Primarily, I have e-commerce, probably makes up 60% of what I do. Another 30 is local, and a lot of that's through word of mouth. And the other 10, I'll call it being a psychiatrist to people and their technology, anything with online marketing, which can result in a laptop being thrown across the floor through frustration. So I have to kind of satiate those people, tell them calm down, it's not that bad, let me be the punching bag.
That, that's a great way to put it. It does involve a lot of psychology. So everyone, all the Zapsters here today, I just want to let you know this was Tim's idea, and it was just brilliant. I'm so excited what this is happening today. And then we have Sanjiv, so please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. Well, I just love learning new technologies there and just applying them for business solutions. And in the past, they were on large-scale systems, and then after my sabbatical, life changed radically, very consciously. And since then, I've been did some web development in the beginning, and then some podcasting, and now looking forward to doing some helping businesses go local online.
That's terrific. And you're also an admirer of Rumi.
Yes, well, that I mean, we could have a series on that. That's one of my biggest passions is indeed Rumi. Yeah, many stories I can share.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm just going to hand this over to the two of you because I know you have a lot to say about collaboration, and we have a very enthusiastic audience here today. So off you go.
Could I just say hi to the Zapsters audience and also a hi to the special guest who's always there, and that's Google. Hi, Google, how are you? Because you're always there listening.
We are.
And I echo that, Tim. Hello to everyone, and I'm just very glad to be here in this Zapster audience.
So how did you two get together? When you were working on the Eagle, Colorado project?
Well, shall I go, Tim?
Sure, go ahead.
We were talking earlier in the green room, Zara, about organic unfolding, and that's exactly how this project began. There were a group of us in PYB level 3, and we would get together on a weekly basis. And in one of them, Debi Davis, she had gone on a short vacation in some small town in Colorado by the name of Eagle. And she mentioned that while she was walking around, she couldn't find certain businesses on her smartphone. So she said, she wanted to look at putting the town of Eagle, Colorado on the map. And it wasn't the whole town, which we'll get into downstream here shortly. And several of us, including Tim, because Tim was in that hangout with me and my wife Sherry and a couple others, Relay, I think that's the core original team, and we said yes, let's do that. So the beginning was very organic. We didn't know. I mean, I'll just say for myself rather than others, I didn't know anything about local, and that's of course even after doing the project, there's still a lot to learn. So that's how it began, and I'm sure Tim will have some more to say.
Yeah, what I would add is I have a background in local, but this is more of an approach of you're taking almost an entire town or subsection of the town to actually make sure all their Google My Business listings claimed, verified, and optimized. So that's a different approach than I've ever been exposed to, as opposed to a lot of, let's say you find people by word of mouth, you help one business out and they'll tell somebody else they know. This is a little different concept where even though we took a subsection of the town, imagine if you did this on the way I always envisioned this project. It's kind of like a prototype. Imagine if you took an entire town and said you're going to put them online. And so what we had to work with, of course, is just a subset, which I think was about 13 merchants, was it?
Yeah, about 15, yeah, 13, 15, yeah.
And what was maybe a little bit unique about this situation, that the town of Eagle, there's some limited internet access ability up there. Most people, the internet access is going to be through their smartphone as opposed to a hard line. I think only one or two of the participants had a hard line internet connection. So that's a little bit of a technological barrier, which I think influenced the project a little bit, because as we all know, if you can't get on high-speed internet access, it really is frustrating. So that's one point I'd pull out of it.
Yeah, and something else I'd add, Zara, that the project was, as I said, it just started organically, and it was an informal experiment, and which had a bearing on the results, which we'll talk about. And everybody involved was a volunteer. So it was, when we began, we didn't know. I remember this is something that we've shared at different times, that when Debi was sharing her story, and several of us said, yeah, we'd love to actually do this. Her face just lit up because she didn't know if people were going to join in. And so why I mentioned that is because we were talking about collaboration. It's without none of us had worked together before, so it was a experiment in the unknown, and fortunately it turned out really well.
I love experiments in the unknown. I think at any time any of us go to work with a client, that's exactly where we're starting. So the whole idea of doing a community as opposed to one business, that is an amazing, a big concept. I mean, just think about, everyone in the audience, think about, working with one client and all the things that happen, and all of a sudden you're pulling on a whole community. This is a big project. Okay, so I know you started out with this idea, this concept, and you were like, okay, we want to do this. Let's make it happen. And there you were with businesses, with mainly mobile. People were mobile. So how did you go about, getting people on board?
Well, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No, go ahead, Sanjiv.
A key element was the fact that Debi was near Eagle, Colorado. I'm saying Golden because she's doing some Golden work now, and that's what and that was an important element, and that's what started it, by her going and directly engaging the businesses, because the rest of the team was not local to. Interestingly enough, they were doing a local project, but the entire team except one was not in the town. And even Debi, I believe, was an hour or maybe 2 hours away. So Debi would go, and she went there, I believe, 3 times. So she did what we called boots on the ground work. Went and established connections with the businesses, and even tried to establish a connection with the mayor's office, and even the Vail 2015 folks, because that's the other element I should mention, that in addition to putting the businesses of Eagle, Colorado on the map, we knew there was a worldwide event going on nearby in the town of Vail, the FIS Alpine World Ski Championship. And because it's a very big worldwide event, we tied it in to bring further buzz or exposure to the businesses. So she contacted the Vail authorities as well. So the work really began with her doing the boots on the ground, and then us we would get together regularly on a weekly basis and did a mini audit of the businesses, and then went into the steps of doing the localizing of the pages, namely claiming them, verifying them, and optimizing them. And then the next stage was socialization, which was quite a substantial effort because the entire team chipped in doing all the socialization, which again we get into in a moment here.
Okay, I'm ready to hear about that. Tim, you have anything to add to that?
Well, the socialization was interesting because I think we also have to mention a lot of these businesses where they're at on their technological journey, and you could replace that with their digital online journey, marketing journey. They're kind of at the beginning, so we can't be too harsh on them because imagine you're just going to say to somebody, okay, start socializing. And if they're not used to doing it, it's kind of a hard thing to make a business do. So keep that in mind. That's what I would just interject at this point.
Okay, and then Sanjiv, you were going to tell us how you brought this about?
Well, socialization, what we did, Zara, is initially while the localizing and optimizing was going on, we decided to, as a team, start posting on 3 key themes. One, the town of Eagle, and then the businesses, second, the businesses, and third, Vail 2015. So essentially a mix of these 3. And we started doing this, I think, within 2 weeks of starting. I believe we started on the 8th, and the first socialization post that I put out was on the 19th, I think 19 November. So we had all the team members posting on these 3 themes. And then a couple of weeks from that, what we did was launch a Eagle Colorado Vail 2015 Google Plus page. And the idea behind that page was that was a singular public hub for the project. But it allowed, if anybody was interested in knowing anything about the project, they could come to that page. Any post that we had done up until that stage, we consolidated them into that page, and then everybody, in addition to continuing to post on their personal profile, we also started posting on the page as the page. And that's what allowed the buzz to build. And if there's one concrete thing that we could walk away with from the project in terms of actual results, even though socialization, as Tim points out, it's a tricky area because businesses don't really relate to them. At least the bulk of socialization, maybe they relate to reviews, but the stage after socialization they don't really relate to as well as they really should, and hopefully they will in future. We were able to get results by showing that the Vail 2015 hashtag, because we were using 2 hashtags, Vail 2015 and EagleCO, that they were up until February 2nd, the day the championship began, they were the top 2 related hashtags. What that told me is that anybody, and of course this was primarily on G+, there was a little bit on the other social channels. By showing that relationship, it's clear that if somebody was looking trying to find something about Vail 2015, they would naturally, if they were looking at the hashtag, they would say, what is EagleCO? And naturally look into it. So that was a concrete result. And I'll let Tim add some more things.
Well, one thing I would add is that we did a little bit of social media monitoring, and there was a restaurant over in Vail, I think it was called La Tour, and they were on Twitter, and they were listening for participants, and they were engaging with them to, draw business. So there were some businesses not in the Eagle area, but in Vail who were doing it. They were listening, they were engaging, they were reaching out. So we did take that little example and kind of posted it, as what a business should be doing. So at least we know there are some businesses out there that are doing what should be done.
It's very, very hard in any area. I just know here where I am, locally outside of Portland, that there are a lot of education for business owners about the importance of that social engagement at all, or the social presence. It's not just engagement. First, it's like, the presence, the social presence itself. We have a website. We have some guys who do SEO for us, and to them, they are covered, you know. So I really understand, and I think a lot of people here in our audience today understand that it's quite a bit of education to bring people on board. I think that the setting up a community as a central hub is just so key to that, and educating, and people can go there anytime, because I know when I'm talking with business owners, maybe a tenth of what I'm saying goes in the first time, and so I, leave them with something where they can, as a reference, where they can go and find out more information. I think that was just a really wonderful strategy, and it's all about collaboration, because it just sort of grew. And then Peter Lunn has a wonderful comment here. Peter says, collaboration equals the multiplication of minds and abilities. Powerful.
Could I interject something with that comment? Because that would be, we had a private community where we could share our ideas. And what I like to do is I would put a piece of content in there. I said, look, here's my idea. Here are the links, supporting it. What do you think? And the other team members would add on to it, which made it morph into something which is much stronger than, I'm going to present just this on my own. And it's that, what he says, that collaboration, you're crowdsourcing that, the mental power to make something much better.
And that worked really well. Just to add to what Tim is saying, that we set up a private community, and it served three key purposes. Of course, it was a hub of communication. So because we were spread around like 5 different time zones, Australia, Malaysia, Bulgaria, in the US, UK, and I hope I'm not forgetting any time zone. I think I've covered most. But anyways, one purpose was a place for communication. Second was, it had a curated set of resources for the project. So there was all kinds of information about Whale, images, actual content, same with Eagle. And then third purpose was, as Tim was pointing out, that we used it as a platform to create final posts in a collaborative manner. Somebody would put up a draft, and others would come in and comment on it, and either the person who had originally put up the draft would actually post, or sometimes somebody just had some good information. They just posted it and said, take it and run with it. So it really allowed us to very efficiently create content and just let it happen independently.
It also was a great content curation tool. I use Hootsuite quite a bit to curate content, but this was a new concept introduced to me, and it was Sanjiv and Cherie who really, I never thought of this, and once kind of the light bulb went off, because just think about it. You have your holding pen for content you created, then you actually have the public page to then publish it to. And it made sense. I don't know why the light bulb didn't go off before, but it was a great tool and a great learning experience too. And you combine that with Drive as well.
Right. And then the other element of the community that was really good, which goes to the heart of collaboration, is everybody was a moderator. And the reason for that was, we didn't want any choke point, that certain actions that only moderators could take, that you would have to go and check in with somebody. Because in the end, the team was literally a group of motivated, self-driven individuals. So they understood the objective, and then they were running with it. And it was there on the page too, that I'll talk in a moment. By having everybody as a moderator, if somebody needed to pin something, they could pin it. It really allowed a very efficient form of remote collaboration. And that idea of equal empowerment, we extended that to the page as well. everybody was a manager of the page, so that they could go in. If somebody needed to edit a particular page, they could go and edit it, even though they physically may not have posted it. So again, that allowed people to pick up content that was in different people's stream and make sure that it was there in that in our public face G plus page. So having empowered individuals, I mean, that's where my juices really flow. You know, Zara, we were talking about collaboration, is that really applying that in the minutest of detail and seeing it work.
And it's one thing I want to add is, I don't work at a large entity, but I know many people who do, and they're very, you know, I hate to say this, they're very command and control. It's like a top-down pyramid. And, you know, it take them a year and a half just to launch their Facebook page. I mean, this is not a criticism, but if you think about it, it's almost like two worlds. And I think maybe David Amerlin talked about this at some point, where you have a kind of it's a free flow bi-directional, as opposed to it's one directional, where it's, you know, top down. We're going to tell you what to do, and then you got to wait. Oh, okay, you want us to do this? Oh, can I ask you, is this what you want? Instead, we're going this way. You kind of equal footing. So I think it's interesting.
That is, it speeds things along. I think the part of what helps is the scale, is that even as a group, it was a smaller group. And so as far as the audience is concerned, I just want to double check that I have the system correctly. You have a public page where businesses, individuals, anybody can come and find out more about the project.
Yes.
And on that public page are posts about getting your business online, engaging, what that means, how you do it. And at the same time, you have a private community where each member is a manager, so that you have total free flow of information. That I love that idea of pinning. You know, it's like, this post is important right now, and you pin it to the top. And then that information, which is formed collaboratively in the private community, then goes to the public page for public consumption.
Right, right. And that page, as you said, Zara, just to add to that, you know, the page's purpose, it had many purposes, and we weren't able to exercise all of them. But what we did exercise is we were able to essentially do the primary socialization through that. So those three themes, Eagle Town, Eagle Businesses, and Vail 2015, that was one area of posting. Another was any quote-unquote technical things. So for example, Tim wrote an excellent post on what should businesses know vis-a-vis reviews. What are the 5 key questions that you should know about? And they were of the theme of do's and don'ts. So that was the second class of information on the page. And page, I should mention that page has evolved. The page had a certain content to it when it was EagleCO, and now it is no longer EagleCO. It is Go Local Online, which we will hopefully spend a few minutes on in a few minutes. But at that point, it was all about the project's socialization effort. And some of the other objectives for the page were, let's say certain businesses, even though they didn't unfortunately participate, but let's say they were participating, and some were open to participating, but they didn't have a page yet. We had set it up so that actually we could post for them. If you looked at the About page back then, you would see that that was one of the objectives, or anything that was going on in the town of Eagle, we could post about that. So essentially use that the idea of anything that's happening in Eagle and to do with the businesses and Vail 2015, really use that hub. And naturally, if the businesses were participating, if I was a small business in Eagle, Colorado, and if I understood that, I would really get involved, because I know traffic would come to my site.
That's wonderful. And I have I just have an announcement. or a couple of technical things. Or I really like to leave everything open so the conversation can flow, but for some reason today, Google, who is watching this, it's Tim notified us earlier. Google keeps slipping to me, so I'm trying to pin as people talk. So I want to apologize for the flippiness. And then Tim has his volume turned all the way up to 100%. And so that's where we are today, folks. We tried as hard as we can to get the volume up, and that's as much as we can do. So thank you very much for your patience, and thanks for being here. Sanjiv, I have a question to follow up on that. What do you think was the most important or the most, the key way to get businesses to participate in the page once things were set up and you all were collaborating? I'm just curious, how it's great for all of you who, may or may not know about local search and all of that to get all together, but, what was the impetus that got the businesses, the individual businesses themselves there and joining in?
Well, unfortunately, the answer is very simple, but kind of unfortunate. They didn't really join in. That is one of the things that we weren't able to really exercise. Namely, we did end up being managers. Debi was manager for several businesses, but they just weren't ready to participate. So in terms of any factual data of that we could draw from their participation, or even some advice that we could distill that brought them, unfortunately not. And that just is, we ended up, my description of the project, the team members know this very well. I used to describe it as a Swiss cheese that had just a bunch of holes. And we were, throughout the project, we would try to plug in as many holes as we could. My personal assessment is, from the start to the end, we still had a Swiss cheese, except that it was closer to a solid block of cheese. And it's just the nature of the project, because one of the conclusions to really address that for future, one conclusion is that we must get buy-in from pertinent authorities, and in this case would be the mayor or any local economic development authority. And I'll just do a quick segue to the current time to make that more specific, Zara, of what we are doing, Shuri and I are doing here in Santa Fe. Before we approach any businesses, there's a city economic development authority that is under the administration of the mayor, and our mayor is very progressive. So we are actually meeting with them to talk about it, because the key is we need. One of the conclusions that I walked away with was, to bring the businesses on board, let's have some other key authorities in place so that they can help us open the doors. Because as you know, Google Plus, we all are total fans of Google Plus and know the value of Google Plus. I mean, I can talk about Google Plus ad nauseum, but businesses don't really see that. And so we just have to bring them along through whatever means. So that approach that we are taking here is opening doors through some of these authorities, and also finding a small segment of open and web-savvy businesses that are willing to take risk, and see if they get on board and they see results, then hopefully others will follow.
If I can add one other thing that I think is relevant, locally we have some economic development initiatives. And I've noticed, this is not a criticism, those who lead the initiatives are not digitally savvy. I was in a forum, and they were trying to think, how can we market to 4 key groups? Okay, one of which was millennials. No one picked up a mobile device. No one talked about that, like a smartphone being the doorway through which you could connect with that group. One person picked up their cell phone and said, how about this? And this is not a criticism, but how do we educate those who make those decisions, who could be the whatever you would call it, the banner carrier, to inform them, the importance of this, because they talked about billboards and stationary kiosks. So, I don't know if this is just for my area, but just think about how do you bridge that gap to tell them the importance of this. This is not, the stationary old days of the phone book and the billboard. They do serve a purpose, but it's not the gateway to these people, to that market.
That's correct, and I'll just second that it's not just your area.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be pervasive as you and I were engaging on a post, Sarah.
Yes.
That, and again, I'll echo this aspect of Tim. It's not a criticism. It just seems to be the quote-unquote unfortunate reality that the small business segment, and maybe true to larger business as well, I don't know, are just late adopters. It's and that's why I personally feel, based on just the Eagle experience and even beyond that in digging, that it just requires certain dedicated individuals like us to sort of blaze the trail, if you will, if I may be so bold enough to say that. Be the pioneer. Just go and do the hard work of convincing, which is not easy.
It's not easy. I have a couple of comments I'd like to share, and then we'll go on. So, Andre Amon says, I agree with Sanjiv. Now I'm thinking about NASDAQ ticker machines. Trading rumors, ideas starts at private hubs, communities. Sometimes it hits the public ticker. And I think that's just an illustration of what we were just talking about, that not everybody's on board. Not everybody's on board. And the more you spread those rumors, I like that, like, hey, this is the secret. Because it is hard when you're out. I call it walking the streets for Google. It's really hard when you're out and you're approaching business owners and they're just not there. And it is an education process, and it's sharing of enthusiasm, I think, has a lot to do with it as well, especially if you have some kind of a success story for some other business that made that giant leap into the Google world and set up a business page and did it correctly, and especially working on reviews and actually interacting with customers. And I think now that Google Now is coming, it's even more important for businesses to have a business page. If they're not there, they're not going to show up when someone's standing on the street with their mobile device in their hand saying, what's around here, or where should I go to lunch, or whatever. And Google says, well, physically there's this store, this restaurant, this perfect lunch spot 12 feet away, but Google's not going to tell them that because that business is not listed. And with Google Plus, and I think that's one of the strongest points right now is this is coming, and it really is important. Whatever else you're doing with all your reviews and other third-party sites, all of these things that staying current with how to be found and how to get customers immediately interacting with you. I think that's part of the concept for right now, is the immediacy of it all, and the growth of the immediacy as far as local businesses are concerned.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree?
Yeah, yes. The one thing I would say in the defense of the business owner, I go to clients and the phone will ring and they'll say, who is this? Somebody says they're from Google. And at one client, it happened 4 times in one day.
Yes, I know.
And it drives them insane. So, I mean, we have to, give the business owner a little bit of a leeway because they're bombarded with this stuff and it drives them bananas.
And just to add to that, Tim, another element of why this is a tough road to hoe is, in addition to the scammy calls coming in, the other part is, as you know, Zara, it was back in April that Google launched their Put Cities on the Map initiative. Now they've had their Get Your Business Online since 2011. Despite that program being here for four years, the stats at the end of 4 years was only 37% of the businesses in the U.S. Have claimed their listings. But what this program, the Put Cities on the Map, is a great program. It's going to help businesses get online. There's lots of self-help resources, but it still doesn't fully plug the gap. And I know that Google is listening, so I hope Google will take this as a positive feedback that, one of the things that we found on that site, the Put Cities on the Map, is it underplays the complexity of this task, or doesn't give a full picture. It says it's going to take you less than 10 minutes to do this, but if you are reading this page, then it's going to be only 9 minutes. Now that may be fine for just getting your page listed, but we've touched upon this. That's just the first step. There's the whole review process, business owner knowing how to do reviews and doing it correctly, and then there is the next step of socialization. That, of course, being correctly on the listing is going to be a huge step forward, but it doesn't stop there. So in addition to the complexity of the steps, Google giving information that makes the business owner kind of question what potentially individuals like us are coming in and wanting them to do, and then the scammy calls. It's a tough road to hoe. We have to have I guess evangelists like us. I consider myself a Google Plus evangelist, so I'm going to become a local evangelist.
And one other thought: the rate of change. We're all in the pro-local communities, watching what goes on. Imagine the rate of change, and how could a business keep up with that? And then the other thing I would add is, watch out when I have some businesses that want this for free, and I said, here, go to this resource. They come back to me. For example, one thing they'll do, they'll claim a custom URL, which makes no sense. It's some botched up name, and they say, well, I thought it was a great idea, and it doesn't match all the rest of their website, etc. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, sure, here are the keys to the car, but can you drive the car so you don't wreck it and run over all the mailboxes?
Yes, that's very true. I'm working with a client right now where they're just in their social media. The name of the business is different, depending on which platform you're on. So it's very confusing. There is just a lot of education involved. We are really coming to the end of our time, so I feel like we've covered maybe a third of what we wanted to cover here today. So Tim and Sanjiv, if you both have some parting words for our audience and anybody who watches in the future about collaboration. I still want to stay with collaboration.
I'll just throw this out. When you find the right people to collaborate with, it's great, because a lot of times I don't do a lot of collaborating on my own outside of this group, and when I do, there's a lot of people who would it's a one-sided conversation, as opposed to this is a bi-directional, which is great. So when you find the right people to collaborate with, it's great.
Yeah, and that's really the key, if I may add or just elaborate on that. The key to our collaboration success, in my mind, the key factor was that these were self-motivated individuals. These were professionals who were there because they wanted to be there. And the structure that we set up was, again, in my language, completely empowered structure, so that it allowed everybody to flourish. Everybody came and contributed what they could. And we are extending that. Zara, what's happening is EagleCO is no more. It has become Go Local Online. And Go Local Online, the key difference is EagleCO had no commercial underpinning. Go Local Online has commercial underpinning, but it's a co-op of individuals who are in each of their respective areas or respective business interest. Like Sheila is interested in going after the real estate industry, not just that, her area as well, but that's one of the segments that she's going to go after. So we have morphed into, and it's a real testament to our collaboration working, that into independent entities, they are going to collaborate now in a different way where we'll share our individual experiences and of course learn from that and apply that, but we are each an individual entity doing in a commercial venture, and we may end up having some sort of partnership evolve from that within the group. That remains to be seen. So it's a, it's a collaboration that has really worked. And one final thing I'll add, I had back when I was sharing the post, Zara, that you had shared about today's event, I realized that I had posted something back in 2013 to do with a study about social media and collaboration. So I dug it up, and it was back in 2013, a study done in Zurich. One of the key conclusions was that social media is going to bring about a collaboration where people are competing, but competing in a manner that allows collaboration to work. And I feel like we have lived through that exercise. We are living through that exercise.
That's so wonderful. I think it has a lot to do with looking at all of the ways that we can employ what is offered to us in the digital world, and that by creating that free flow of communication between, there's no hierarchical, it's direct and interflowing. That is the key to that kind of contextual building of the information. And I want to bring up one comment from Nina Tanfola. It was fascinating to operate in a free manner. I was choosing every day what is fitting to our focus and posting. I felt more responsible compared to receiving a fixed task, Sanjiv. What a beautiful illustration of somebody involved and how it works. Yeah, so Tim and Sanjiv, I want to thank you so very much. I think we're going to have you back in in an interval of time so that we can keep track of how this is I was just going to say manifesting, is coming about and growing. It's just fascinating, and I want to thank you both for sharing your information and the experience. I think it's such an experiential thing that this collaborative effort did. Very, very experiential, and you're right. The people who voluntarily came in with fire and made it happen. So thank you both, and thank you, Zapsters, and I'm so sorry we couldn't get to a lot of comments, but we just were pressed. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye.